All right, another week has passed, and we had a scrimmage on Saturday. I think you're all aware of that. Like the way our guys went about it. It was one of those days where I think early the defense started off strong. Um, the offense picked it up, but ultimately it was a game where I think, or a scrimmage, I should say, where I think both sides performed well. There weren't a lot of big plays necessarily, but I thought the offense generally was pretty efficient as it went along. And defensively, I like the fact that we tackled the football for the most part, and again didn't give up a lot of big plays really of any sort. So I think it's the type of day that you want to see. Really no errors, the common errors, the personnel, jumping off sides, communication errors, those type of things. So felt it was pretty clean in that regard, and I thought it was a good day for us to take a step forward and continue to draw out those position battles. I know really we see today and tomorrow as the end of the conclusion of fall camp. As we transition into our first opponent, that will be Wednesday, and with that being said, we'll be pretty formalized, I'd imagine, depth chart wise by Wednesday. But still letting some battles play out as we stand here today.
With Justin Lamson 16 of 18, what specifically did you like about that performance?
Well, I like the fact he completed the football. I think that's the thing that jumps out at you. Quick decisions, knew where he was going. Um, I think he got some pressure on him at times, got the ball out, and performed well, I guess, under duress, probably as much as you can in a yellow jersey still. So, I thought I think his command of our offense continues to grow, and without a spring ball situation behind him, that was going to be a challenge. There was opportunities to learn through the spring and grow through the summer, I should say, but it's really had to happen here over the last few weeks, and it's a credit to Justin and his work ethic, but then also Coach Turbick working with them. That I think we're moving along, and his grasp of what we're doing isn't going to hold him back, I guess. So pleased with I think all three of those guys, how they continue to compete. I think Chance and Patrick, their continued growth is apparent, and however it sorts out, we're going to need all those guys to be ready to go, be ready to perform, and lead this offense. Yeah, I think a day like Saturday, is probably as real as it's gotten to this point with our ability to use it. I say that we were able to use it in the spring, so it's not like it's brand new this fall. I think there's elements of what we have incorporated during regular practice as well. So I think it's going well. I think the biggest one is Coach Sturbick being up in the box to the quarterbacks. We will work with the cutoff switch. That's something that we didn't have in the spring. Within the play clock, I know we were moving along at a pretty good clip on Saturday, so that really didn't come into play as far as the information not going where it was supposed to. I know Coach Howe being on the field, a little different mechanics there as far as his ability to communicate with those linebackers. So I think we've utilized it well. I don't think it's earth shattering by any means for us. Communication still has to exist beyond just the coach to player, but I think it's an added deal for the FCS. I think we're going the right direction.
What are some of the other positions that are still playing battle wise?
Well, I know corner for sure. Between Jace and Seth, Carson, and even Takari. I think those guys are all continuing to battle for what that's going to look like. Like any year, I think it's our hope we play beyond the two guys that start the football game. So do we look at it? Do we have three guys that are going to rotate, four guys that are going to rotate? What's that rotation percentage going to look like? So definitely there. I would say on the offensive side of the ball, beyond quarterback, just who our best five offensive linemen is going to be is still a work in progress. I think position flexibility. I know I've talked about before allows us to ultimately get the best five out there. So I think that's a work in progress as we work through these next couple of days. And even beyond that, okay, are we gonna start 5 and play 5, or are we gonna try to rotate my 6th guy in there? I think that's still a question mark.
So in terms of quarterback, I guess, are you guys looking at Wednesday to name a starter? Or I guess where are you at with that?
Well, we'll have a press conference next Monday. Put a depth chart out. I would imagine that's when that'll be named. Obviously our game plan mode does shift to Oregon on Thursday, so maybe within the team it's going to be formalized, but from a release perspective, it'll be next Monday.
Anybody maybe that stood out or didn't stand out statistically that, or on or off the statistics?
Well, I know looking at running backs, I mean that whole thing gets spread out. No one really has leaned into it in that regard. I know receiver-wise, probably the same thing. I look at guys like Chris Long and Ryan King. I think did well with their opportunities, but those opportunities were somewhat limited. I would say the same even goes for Taco. Tight end wise, I think we only had a couple balls that targeted them. So I know our starting core of tight ends and receivers, that ball is going to be distributed throughout. I know we're going to have at the same time guys that ultimately rise to the top as far as those targets go, and that wasn't necessarily reflected in the scrimmage. I think we feel pretty good about it. I think those guys that just hadn't been in that role recognize the need for sure, and then I think we've continued to work on putting them in positions to lead, to communicate, whether that's been out of practice or opportunities outside the building, and they've done a good job with it. So I think there's a lot of guys that truly care about the success of this program deeply, and at the same time there's a bunch of guys that are capable. So we'll elect captains here through the course of this week, and I'm confident our leadership isn't just going to end with those guys at the same time.
Yep. In terms of the specialist group, I guess what have you decided with Miles and adding Colby and Brody to the mix?
Yeah, I think Miles has been really sharp, and I would say I think has added some leg. Our ability to go beyond 50, I think, will be there this year with him. I think that was kind of our range last year. We've been real consistent though. And then you look at those youngsters. I know with Colby, asking him to punt and kick off, I think he was pretty consistent on Saturday. And that's he hasn't. We've been over on the grass. They've been working in the stadium. There hasn't been a lot of all eyes are on him watching that particular play. So I thought he performed well. I know, asking him to do those two duties, punt and kick off, and he's holding as well. I think he's capable and ready to take that on. And Brody's been rock solid, and that's what we need out of that position.
And then on the return side, I always have Taco in the punt. Kind of use Adam and Chris. I guess how are those kind of shaping up?
Yeah, I know those names certainly will factor in. Taco's going to be out there returning punts. I think Jabez Woods is another name I would definitely throw in there. Jabez's ability, and it's shown up more in front of you guys, I suppose, on the offensive side, make people miss is certainly a piece of what the return game could look like. So I think we have some real capable guys, and I think some real explosive guys at the same time. So excited about how that's going to continue to play out. But our returners, our kick returners, will come amongst that group, and Taco will certainly be our punt returner.
Beyond special teams, do you see any true freshmen contributing pretty heavily to this?
Yeah, the 4-game rule and then the playoffs not counting towards that is a continued extension. Is the way that's been. So I think we can be strategic, to your point, on the special teams. I think on the defensive side, Xavier Aarons is definitely a guy that's flashed at linebacker. And what that means, like short term, early season, we'll see. But he's the type of guy. By the time we get to the conference season, we hopefully have him seasoned where he can be a guy that can really contribute not only on special teams but defense. Josiah Azuga on the defensive line is another guy that I know we're taking a hard look at. So probably those two guys, and then there's a collection of guys that I know can contribute over the course of the season on special teams as well.